Welcome back to Grandpa Alex's channel. Today we're going to read a bigger book all about animals. It's a Childcraft series. It's a much bigger book, but this is all about animals. This was, let's see here, who wrote this thing? It's a World Book Inc. This is Volume 5, Childcraft, the How and Why Library. We're going to break this book up because it's so big into a few chapters at a time. So, let's just get started with the first chapter, the Animal Kingdom. What's the difference between a pussy willow and a pussy cat? Pussy willow, pussy cat. Pussy willow, being alive, is growing from a seed in the ground. It's having roots and get water from the ground. It is roots. It is staying in one place. For pussy willows, can't move around. It is having green leaves that take in summer sunlight and is using food. It is having seeds for which new pussy willows may grow. That is why a pussy willow. They are plants. For pussy cat, being alive is being born, eaten, and growing. It is moving around. It is learning about other animals and playing and making noise. It is growing up and having little kittens. That is the way of the pussy cat. Again, pussy cat, pussy willow. This is a red fox, is an animal. This is a sea anemone, is an animal. And a seagull is an animal. Plant or animal? Do you know the best way to tell the difference between a plant and an animal? You can't always tell by just looking. Some plants look like animals, and some animals look like plants. At the bottom of the sea, there's living things that look like flowers growing out of the sand, but if a fish swims by and touches the flower's petals, the fish gets caught. A little mouth opens in the middle of the flower, and into it goes the fish. Do plants have mouths? Can they eat things? No plants in the world has a mouth. And most green plants make their own food from sunshine, air, and water. But animals can't make their own food. They must eat it. Now, the flower on the sea bottom moves. It slides slowly over the sand. Can a plant move? No. Once a plant sprouts up from its seed, it stays in the same place unless it is moved by man, an animal, or the wind. But most animals can move by themselves. So this living thing at the bottom of the sea is not a plant because it moves and eats. It is an animal called a sea anemone. If a living thing moves about and eats, it is an animal. Here's a picture. The sea. Animals move. Plants cannot move from place to place by themselves, but animals move in many different ways. A clam has one foot that is uses for digging into mud and sand. Penguin walk on 2 legs. Condu walk and run on 4 legs. Ladybugs walk on 6 legs. Spiders walk on 8 legs. Centipedes may have 100 pairs of legs on which to walk, and some millipedes walk on more than that. Snakes slide on no legs at all. Bats and many kinds of birds and insects fly. Fish swim. Some animals move only when they are young. Barnacles, sponges, and baby ostriches swim through the water until they find a good place to stay. Then they fasten themselves down and never move again. Animals can move around without help. If it moves by itself, it's an animal. Here's a picture of a centipede. It's an animal that moves on many legs, This enemy has 40 legs. 40 legs. Imagine 40 legs. Look at that guy. 40 legs. Snakes are animals that have no legs at all, but a snake can move quite fast. Look at that snake. Be careful of snakes. They can hurt you. They can kill you. Snakes are dangerous. Get a parent, an adult. Gulls. Gulls are birds, and insects are animals that can use their legs for moving on the ground and their wings to move in the air. A kodo is one of the animals that walk and run on four legs. There's a gulls, kudos. Little worm-like animals live inside these twisty tunnels. They poke their heads up, but they never move around. And coral. Gull's a bird, kudo, and then a coral. Animals eat. If it eats, it's an animal. There are almost as many animals ways of eating as there are kinds of animals. As earthworms eat its way through the ground, it feeds on bits of rotten plants. A sponge takes in its tiny plants and animals from the water that flows through it. A camel shoots out like a sticky tongue, catches insects. A butterfly has long, hollow, straw-like mouth parts called proboscis. The butterfly keeps its proboscis rolled up. When a butterfly gets hungry, it unrolls its proboscis. It puts its proboscis into a flower and sucks up nectar. A ground squirrel has strong teeth for cracking nuts and seeds. It carries food to its home in its pockets and its cheeks, like that. Cheeks are puffed out. A bowling whale takes a mouthful of seawater with tiny plants and animals in it. It lets the water run through its mouth. Then it swallows the plants and animals. Plants make their food from light and water, things in the ground and air, but animals must eat to live. Here's an earthworm. Here's a butterfly eating nectar out of a plant with their long tongue, called a proboscis. Here's a sponge, sea plant. Here's a squirrel with a bunch of nuts in its mouth. See how it's all puffed out? New living things. All living things come from other living things. Every baby animal comes from a grown-up animal like itself. Baby penguin comes from a penguin. Horse comes from a horse. A beetle comes from a beetle. Some baby animals come right out of their mother's bodies. Horses are born this way. Some are monkeys, cats, whales, and some fish and snakes. Some babies come out of the eggs that come from mothers' bodies. Penguins are born this way. So are beetles, frogs, and most fish come from eggs. Baby animals look like their parents. Some look very different, but every baby animal grows up to be exactly the same kind of animal as its parent. Here's a penguin, baby with its parents. The baby penguin came from the egg that was laid by the grown-up mother penguin. The baby will grow to look like her parents. This is a baby beetle. Very different from the adult, but when the baby grows up, it'll look like it's adult. And here's a fowl, came out of his mother body. A fowl is a baby horse. And now that we talked about babies, I think that's a good point to stop for tonight. And we'll pick this up next time. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back into this book next time. About animals. We have a lot more to learn. So keep watching, and I'll keep reading. Thanks. Have a good night.